The iron cuff was cold, even under the sun of Roman Egyptus in the year 155 CE. It was not the weight that mattered, but the finality of the sound, a sharp clack as the rivet sealed the wrist of the woman they called Amara. She was already weary from the pursuit, her escape a brutal flicker of hope extinguished in the arid dust. This script will chronicle 5 brutal punishments for women who escaped Roman slavery, acts of institutional cruelty designed to crush the will. The guards did not speak, they simply applied the new collar, a heavy bronze hoop cast with a small, ugly inscription, fugitive. This collar, the mark of the fugitiva, would be the central motif of our story, a physical anchor to a lost identity. The guards were swift, efficient, and they smiled. How did the Republic justify such cruelty against a broken woman? And what became of the records of those who were never caught? Did freedom's taste make the iron collar heavier? If you enjoy these dark histories, leave a like and subscribe and comment below where you're listening from. And now, back to the story. The return was not a march of triumph, but a shuffle of dust and defeat. Amara, along with 5 other captured women, was bundled onto a narrow, reeking transport ship bound for Italia. Their journey a descent into perpetual cold and iron-laced sea air. They were no longer individuals. The institution of the Familia Rustica, the owner's estate, had already stripped them of their names. In the census records and the master's ledger, Amara became simply Fugitiva 41, a number to be tracked, depreciated, and repurposed. Her bronze collar, the motif of their capture, was now rubbed raw against her neck, a constant abrasive reminder of the consequence of independent movement. Upon arrival at the sprawling estate near Brundisium, the control tightened. The women were presented not to the master, but to the vilica, the female slave overseer, a woman whose cruelty was honed by her own precarious status. Her first act was to assign them to the pistrinum, the hand mill, a place of grinding labor and darkness. She did not raise a whip. She employed a far quieter weapon of control, the promise of noxa. The punishment for their attempted flight, the overseer explained, could be death, or the mines, an unthinkable sentence. But mercy was offered, a subtle trap. If they confessed any accomplices, if they signed the declaration of flight and servitude, they could avoid the immediate, brutal penalties. They would instead be subjected to a punishment of perpetual shame. The heavy iron collar would be replaced by a permanent tattoo. A practice record suggests became increasingly common. The letters "Fuge" permanently etched into the forehead or wrist. This mark was meant to destroy their identity in the public eye, turning every glance into an accusation. One of the women, a spinner named Lyra, kept her gaze fixed on the floor, her lips moving silently, tracing a faint, almost invisible mark she had pressed into the clay of the ship's hold, a small 4-line symbol of her Syrian ancestry. She refused to speak, refused to sign, finding her quiet resistance in silence and the steady rhythm of the hand mill. She would not provide the names of the others who had planned the flight, offering only a single, defiant tear. When is silence a louder refusal than any scream? The vilica grew cold. The hidden price of mercy was exposed. Sign the confession and gain labor in the field. Refuse and face the first true punishment. Lyra's refusal meant she would be publicly humiliated with the pillory and the lash, not just for flight, but for her contumacia, her defiance, a punishment meant to break the spirit before the body. The cold logic of the institution demanded absolute subservience, and the bronze collar had simply been the prelude. What cruel mark would replace the burden of the bronze? The condition was stated openly, not by a magistrate, but by the carnifex, the estate's brutal enforcer. Lyra and 2 others stood before him in the dirt courtyard. You may suffer the lash, the branding, and the perpetual punishment of the mine, the carnifex stated, his voice flat. Or you may sign the confession, name your conspirators, and be restored to your appointed labor. The choice was framed not as a moral dilemma, but as a simple cold efficiency problem. Comply versus vanish. Lyra, eyes fixed on the man's studded leather belt, offered her single, cold refusal line. I have nothing to confess, save that the air outside was sweet. The escalation began immediately. The soft pressure of promised mercy vanished. First came deprivation. For 3 days they were left in a dry, unlit cella, storage room, fed only sour wine and stale grain. The goal was to dismantle the body's integrity, to make the hunger louder than the memory of freedom. When this failed, the estate escalated to the second brutal punishment for female fugitives, the chains and the wheel. They were secured to a heavy stone wheel in the courtyard during the day, a humiliating, visible spectacle, and forced to turn it until their muscles failed, their legs swelling against the thick iron bands. This punishment was designed to ensure that the women could never again use their bodies for flight. Their mobility became their prison. This deprivation was followed by silence. The Carnifex decreed that any slave caught speaking to the 3 women would be punished alongside them. The trio was cast out, rendered invisible even in the crowded labor camp. Yet, what was meant to break them began to serve as armor. The imposed silence became their vow. They communicated only through shared glances, the quiet discipline of their bodies moving in unison at the mill, and the subtle rhythmic scrape of their feet on the courtyard stone. This unity, this wordless covenant, became an internal refuge that the Roman system could not reach. What sanctuary can be built when bricks are only silence and iron? The core why of this institutional cruelty was clear. It was not solely about recovery of assets. It was about terror. The flight of any slave, male or female, was a breach in the cosmic order, a challenge to the Pax Romana. A successful escape suggested that the vast mechanism of the empire was imperfect, that the social hierarchy established by the gods could be circumvented. The price was not just their labor, but the visible, visceral demonstration that resistance was hopeless. The masters, the dominii, needed to reassert their divinely ordained control. The punishment had to be so spectacular, so memorable, that it acted as a deterrent for 2 generations. For Lyra, who refused to break, the final, most brutal punishment was determined. It was the complete and intentional erasure of identity, the 4th cruel act, being sold to a remote mine in the Iberian Peninsula, specifically one that worked the Cinnabar deposits, the deadly red ore. The documentation would be deliberately falsified, a common tactic to sever the legal and personal ties completely. No owner would ever find her, and no one would ever recover her. A terrifying fate known as being proscripta, outlawed, declared lost, on the slave market registers near the river Tiber in Rome, circa 160 CE. The price of her refusal was not a clean death, but a slow, poisoned vanishing. Who remembers a name when the empire refuses to write it down? The Cinnabar Mines of Hispania Tarraconensis, where Lyra was ultimately sent, were intended to be a place of final, poisoned erasure. Yet, it was in this dark, volatile environment that a hidden truth, tied to the motif of the collar, would surface. The bronze identification collar, melted down and recast by the familia for economy, was not the only metal mark slaves carried. Deep within the Cinnabar shaft, in a chamber where the toxic dust settled thick and red, Lyra found a hidden place, a narrow, disused tunnel entrance obscured by centuries of iron ore slag. Inside, where the air was cold and thin, was a damp, smoothed wall of slate. Here, the women who had come before, fugitives, rebels, and the condemned, had enacted a wordless rite of memory. They did not use speeches or grand declarations. They used the same crude materials the Empire used to track them. Scratched into the slate were scores of miniature, rough carvings of the very fugitive collar, rendered in outline. But within the hollow center of each collar was a single, tiny symbol, a line, a spiral, a bird, a personal glyph reclaiming the erased name. The metal collar, designed for ownership, was inverted in this rite to become a frame for identity. Lyra took a piece of chipped flint and began her own work. She scratched the outline of the heavy bronze hoop into the slate, and inside, she placed the 4-line symbol she had made in the clay of the ship's hold, the mark of her ancestry. This was the final and perhaps most potent brutal punishment, the attempt to erase lineage and heritage, which these women had resisted by inscribing their own genealogy into the stone. The cautious evidence cue grounding this rebirth was found much later. Near the mine entrance, an excavation in the modern era revealed a fragment of an official Roman lead curse tablet, a defixio dollars, a record meant to invoke the gods to punish runaway slaves. The tablet, dating to the late 2nd century CE, contained not a name, but a description. Let the one who carries the bronze neck ring, the one who refuses the name, be struck dumb and blind. The curse sought silence, but the stone kept the memory alive. This fragment of evidence revealed what was hidden, the Empire's ultimate fear. It wasn't just the labor they lost. It was the silent network of resistance, the fact that these women maintained a form of communication and solidarity, transmitting their ancestry and their defiance across thousands of miles and generations, right under the noses of their captors. The hidden truth was that the enslaved had a history of their own, recorded not in official ink, but in the stone. Lyra was not alone. Could a shared secret defy the strength of iron and empire? Lyra left the carved chamber, not free, but armed with the knowledge that her identity was not defined by the weight of her collar, but by the symbol scratched inside it. What history is lost when the conqueror holds the only pen? The Empire demanded that Lyra's fate become a blank page. Across the various Roman provinces, the system enacted the final, fifth brutal punishment for female fugitives: bureaucratic erasure. The slave registers near the Tiber, where Lyra was proscripta, show the ink withheld. Her entry, once bearing the number fugitiva 41, was not burned or crossed out, but simply left unfinished, a cold, bureaucratic void. The lack of notation was its own verdict. She was a non-person, her memory too dangerous to officially record even as a failure. Distant witnesses, decades later, offered only whispers, not proof. Miners returning from Hispania told tales of a silent woman working the deepest cinnabar seams, a woman who carried no name, but who left small, meticulous carvings on the hall wheel spokes, not of flowers or gods, but of collars framing symbols. These accounts, filtered through fear and time, were dismissed as superstition or simple folklore. They were the echo of Lyra's resistance, but they lacked the legal weight to challenge the Roman archives. The opening image, the sharp clack of the iron cuff sealing Amara's wrist in Egyptus in 155 CE, returns now as a faint, distant sound. That sound, once a violation, is reframed as an echo. The clack was not the end of a life, but the beginning of an unwritten history, a challenge met by silence and stone. The collar, the mark of enslavement, became the frame for the true self, held in a memory that refused to be erased. The Empire succeeded in vanishing the woman, but it failed to silence the symbol. The system wrote the official history, but the women wrote their names on the rock face, a testament to the fact that cruelty could command the body, but never fully claim the spirit. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like. Does a history unwritten still carry the weight of iron?